I honest to God cannot believe this guy got away with it, but he absolutely did. Today I'm going to show you a heinous example of a female officer that was beaten and shot at, and then the suspect actually got off scot-free on these charges at his trial. Now, I'm going to give you my opinion on what happens in that video, some of the things that were not shown in the video but we found out later that make it even more egregious, but also where all of this stems from and how this attitude towards the police in this specific state all lead from the governor of that state and how he is pretty much directly responsible for this type of stuff happening. Now, of course, this is just my opinion, and I want to hear yours. No matter if you agree or disagree, let me know what you think down below after the video. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. Let's go and get into it. Now, let me go ahead and show you the video that we'll be talking about.
What the?
Now, this comes out of San Bernardino County. The officer is Megan McCarthy, and she's responding to a call where the lady says, hey, you got to get my son out of here. He's out of control, something to that extent. So she shows up. She sees the woman on the phone, still with dispatch, knife in her hand, and then her son walks down towards her, and how she describes him as very angrily walks down towards her. Now she says, hey, let me make sure you don't have any weapons, everything's good, we talk about what's going on here. Well, that's when he turns on her and we start to see the interaction. Now, clearly he's beating up on her. They get to the ground, she pulls out her gun, takes a couple of shots. We see, presumably, the mom walk up. I don't know what she's trying to do. I don't know if she's trying to pull her son off of him at this point. That's the only assumption I can make, but as soon as she hears a shot go off, obviously she smartly walks away. Now, one of the terrifying parts about this is something we don't see in the video, and that is Megan McCarthy's testimony. She says that he pulled the gun on her and then pulled the trigger almost instantly. So she gets up and she says, I'm looking down the barrel of my own gun and I hear the trigger click. She says, at that point, I just realized that I've been killed. Fortunately, the gun malfunctions. Now, we talk about this all the time. You know, if you have a gun that malfunctions, it can cost you your life, right? And that's very true, right? You got to have a reliable firearm as a concealed carrier. But fortunately, this gun malfunctioned, right? That's why we see him rack the gun, takes a shot at her, and then 3 officers show up very quickly. Maybe 4 or 5 seconds pass from the time he takes the shot to the time they show up. Now, when he puts his hands up, it looks like he still has the gun in his hand. We unfortunately can't see because of the tree, and I was unable to find any of the body cam footage, which is really weird. This video is from 2019, by the way. So it is kind of old, and I was unable to find that footage. Regardless, it looks like he still has the gun in his hand. We hear a shot, and then the officers say, put the gun down, and then they open fire. Now, of course, the suspect lives. They take him to the hospital, and now he's facing charges. Attempted murder, stealing a police officer's weapon, and resisting arrest. And unbelievably, he gets off on all of those. The only thing they charge him with is discharging a firearm. Now, the defense said, first of all, she had no right to detain him. Now, I'm not somebody that believes that police officers should just be able to detain you for no reason, but she's responding to a domestic situation. We know how those play out. They typically don't play out in men's favor, right? And I don't think that's right. But they can still detain you pretty much everywhere for a certain amount of time until they can realize or find out what crime, if any crime, has been committed, right? They can't hold you for longer than what you should be, but in a lot of these states, somebody's going to jail, especially over a domestic dispute. So again, I want to make it clear that I don't always agree with people being detained when they're exercising their rights. He's walking towards her angrily. She still has to kind of figure out what's going on. Does anybody need to go to jail here, or is this something that can be handled, easily? Whatever. But the defense says, well, she illegally detains him. He could have hit her 100 times and he would have been fully within his rights. That is insane. You can't handle situations like that. Even if the police wrong you, right, you cannot use force against them, because 9 times out of 10 or 10 times out of 10, you're either going to lose your life or you are going to lose your freedom. You got to fight those battles elsewhere. And I believe in your right to do that, but you can't fight them on the streets. That's something that is widely known, right? You fight them in court. Even if they wrong you, you fight them in court. But the other part of the defense may be even worse. They say that he wasn't firing towards her. They say that she actually ran behind a bush and where his shot landed was well away from her. Well, this is the same guy that just pulled the trigger on an officer at point blank range, and then he shoots in her direction, the same direction she's running, and you think that he didn't want to shoot her in the back as she's running away? I think he's just a suck-ass shot, thankfully. Now, there's claims that there could have been anti-biases in the jury themselves towards the police. And that's not hard to believe when you look at the policies of California and Gavin Newsom. Just this year, in the budget proposal, Gavin Newsom wanted to cut about $200 million from police all the way around, whether that was from court system to corrections, rehabilitation, a total of almost $200 million he wanted to cut from them. There's programs like Defund 12 that have proposed cutting more money away from San Bernardino. And this happens in other places too, but right now we're focused on California. Now, if that isn't bad enough, taking money away from San Bernardino and other police departments, it's the amount of money that California and Gavin Newsom are willing to spend on non-citizens, right? Now, if you weren't a little bit upset before, you probably will be after I tell you a couple things here. This is just the tip of the iceberg, by the way. You know, there was $52.7 million that California was ordered to repay because they improperly coded, or however they sent it off to the federal government for reimbursement for non-emergency medical services. Now, emergency medical services can be reimbursed, but non-emergencies have to be paid for in state funds. Well, California just happened to slip through an extra $52 million, chump change really at this point. And so when they were audited, they found this out and they were like, hey, you got to repay this, and rightfully so. But there's also food services that non-citizens get. There's housing. There's a bill that is already passed through, they have supermajority as far as the Democrats out there in California anyway. So all it needs is a signature from Gavin Newsom. And if you are an illegal immigrant, you can get 20% or up to $150,000 to buy your first home. So the American dream given to people that should not be here. Again, nothing against them, but you got to come in the right way. And this governor continues to show that he will give more to the people that are not there to secure votes and take away from your own police department. And then, unfortunately, people like this POS you see in the video get off scot-free, no problem. You got to remember now, in California, the average price of a home is over $900,000 compared to $439,000 for the rest of the United States. So you may be thinking up to $150,000 for a down payment. Holy crap, that would almost pay off my house somewhere else. Unfortunately, all of this stuff has gone up in the last 3.5 years. You can figure out the timeline of what happened or what has happened since then. But regardless, it's just unbelievable to think that that amount of money is just handed over to people, right? People that work decades to save up for, a down payment on their first home. These are just programs, they hand them out. And interestingly, a lot of people in California support this type of thing. because not only do they continue to vote for him, they will speak out, for these types of policies. Now of course you have a lot of multi-millionaire and even billionaires out there, so it may not mean much to them, but to the traditional American family that's just working to try to, hopefully get into their own home one day, this will probably infuriate you to hear all of this, and you can look it all up. Those are the policies they're dealing with in California. Crime is up. Oakland is a disaster, right? You're taking money away from police departments, throwing it back into the community. Well, that involves a lot of businesses closing down because they're like, we can't deal with this level of crime. San Francisco, same way. And so they've created this atmosphere where police are bad. And so, of course, you're going to have some biases in jury trials and, just in the general public out there. And then you take money away from them and you give it to non-citizens. It is such a scummy thing. This is a scummy governor. Now, they say the way that California goes, the rest of the United States goes. I hope that trend has stopped because, or at least as long as Gavin Newsom has been there, because he is just he's just an awful, awful person. Unfortunately, people keep voting him in, but a lot of the big cities dictate what California does. So that's just unfortunately a part of it. I know a lot of riders and shooters out there. You guys are subscribed to both of my channels, and it's just unfortunate that you have to deal with those policies, and not everybody can just move out to a free state whenever they want. It's just, it's really unfortunate. And it looks like a beautiful place too. I've never been there. But regardless, these are the type of policies, this is the type of mindset they've created. And it's really funny, but not funny too. They've created this entire homeless addiction type of mentality, tent cities and all this, and now Gavin Newsom is out there cleaning up, and it's like, dude, you led to this, right? You don't charge people whenever they break the law. You take money away from police departments. You give money to non-citizens, and then you go out there for a photo op where you're cleaning up trash and doing all this kind of stuff. That's not a flex. Right? Is somebody convinced by that? It's ridiculous, dude. And so hopefully they will get this guy out. Hopefully he doesn't sign this bill, but knowing him, he probably will. So there you go, man. That is my opinion. You take money away from police departments. You build up this ideology where police are bad, and you get situations just like this. It's just unfortunate Megan McCarthy is on the other side of this, right? So anyways, that's where we are with this one, and that's my opinion. And of course, if you agree or disagree, let me know what you think down below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one, and as always, hold 'em down.